Well, hello, I'm Joe Walensky, and we're here for another episode of the Digital Accessibility Podcast, the people behind the progress. And today I am speaking with Brittany Palmer. Hello, Brittany. How are you doing today?
Hi, Joe. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
All right, it's another fairly warm day in the Bellingham area north of Seattle. Where are you talking to me from?
I am in Connecticut right now, so luckily we have some really great weather today.
Well, it's good to have you as part of the program. And our usual best place to start is if you could tell us a little bit about the work that you're involved in now.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it. Super excited to talk about what I'm currently involved in. So right now I am a managing partner and co-founder of Adaptation Ventures that I run with my life and work partner, Brittany Palmer. And Adaptation Ventures is a pre-seed venture capital firm that focuses on maximizing human potential, human independence, and dignity through early stage investments in disability, neurodivergent, caregiving, and diagnostic technology. So it's a little bit of a mouthful there, but we are sector and industry agnostic. So our goal is to look across the early stage innovation ecosystem and find companies and invest in them that are serving any part of the disability market or working on disability prevention.
Well, it sounds like you will run into a lot of different organizations across the spectrum, but are you able to just provide some examples of the types of things that the companies that you invest in will typically be involved in?
Yeah, so we actually see a fair amount of both software and hardware companies, and a lot of AI companies, which I think sometimes when people think about disability and neurodivergent technology and caregiving technology, they're not necessarily thinking about the latest technologies being used, but there's a lot of AI being used in this space, even in hardware too. And so we see everything from robotics that are helping people to stand up and be more independent in their home, to haptic technology that are helping people who are blind be able to interact better in social situations and view nonverbal cues, to technology that is helping kids who are neurodivergent learn better in schools. So that prosthetics that are sort of like the top of the line, just incredible innovations and strides in this space, as well as, financial technology. So again, broad spectrum of companies that we're seeing all at the early stages, but doing really amazing things and ones that are scalable too. I think there's this notion in the venture capital world that the disability market is niche, that there is no money to be made, that they have no money to spend, and it couldn't be further from the truth. So a lot of these companies are really taking advantage of massive opportunities in this space to, and at the same time providing incredible impact.
And so, how did you find your way into what you're involved with now? What's your background and what led you in this direction?
Yeah, so my allergies are killing me today, so you have to excuse me. But
Just feel free
I
to take a
am
break whenever you need to. It's fine.
okay. Um, so I I was born with a disability, so have a bilateral below elbow limb difference. So I've been adapting to the world my entire life. But growing up, I just wanted to be viewed as someone that didn't have a disability and was totally normal, nothing different about me from like any other kid out there. I played sports and did lots of things that kids normally do, just in a little bit of different ways. Uh, and Started my career actually doing environmental and health and safety law. So I went to Rensselaer Polytech for undergrad, and then went to Pace Law for my law degree. And I just have like such a passion for travel and the environment, and health and safety, but more on like a global scale. So uh, that's how I started my career doing international environmental health and safety law. I was a partner at a consulting firm in Boston. And then after Rich started and sold his company, and I thought, there's no way I'll ever do that. I decided to start my own company. And this was like really the first time that I I took what my background was, and my love for travel and my experience in disability, and I decided to start a company around that. So it was called Beyonder, doing live and interactive virtual tours for people with limited mobility and other conditions that prevented or inhibited travel. And we ended up serving not only people with disabilities, but also schools and corporate companies for their employees, lots of senior organizations, nonprofit organizations. I wanted people to be able to experience things that they might not be able to see in person. And that was a venture-backed company. But during that period, I heard a lot of investors say, disability is niche and there's not a lot of money again, and Rich and we saw the gap in this space as we talked to more founders who were going through the same thing. They just needed that first capital in. They needed that high conviction investor to help them. And so after doing our own investments for 6-7 years, we decided to start Adaptation Ventures. And so that's how we got to this point. Rich also, he in his late 20s had a brain aneurysm rupture. And we really, he learned how to read and write and walk and talk all over again. And I got a significant dose of, understanding what the caregiving life was like, in addition to also working a full-time job. And so we just really wanted to work together to bring this to more people and to support these entrepreneurs in ways that was sort of lacking in the early stages of my company.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing your personal story of challenges with you and Rich. You mentioned just at one point about um, limited mobility related to travel that you were interested in. Could you tell me just a little bit more about that? It's it's, uh,
Yeah,
it's something I'd like to learn more about.
sure. So, right now, well, I would say not necessarily right now, but there's still a lot of focus around wheelchair users as being the only ones that people think about when you think about accessible travel. And there are a lot of wheelchair users, and it's incredibly important for them to have accessibility when they travel, for sure, no doubt about that. But there are so many other people that may have sensory uh, disorders or constraints where they can't be in places where there's a lot of noise or where there's flashing lights. There are people who are not in wheelchairs but might not be able to walk as far and or up a lot of steps to see places. And um, and when you think about people with autoimmune diseases that might not be able to take the medications needed to keep them safe when they travel to certain places, people undergoing, cancer treatments or needing dialysis and not being able to travel because they can't get that where they're going. There's all kinds of things that we consider limited mobility that when people think about that, that might not be the first thing that comes to mind. But when I was doing my research, I just came across all of these different groups of people. So not just on the physical sense, but people with agoraphobia, high anxiety, people who are on parole and can't leave the state. So there's so many different groups of people that when we say limited mobility, we're talking in like big terms. Um, and so from my experience doing the consulting and then from doing a lot of travel with Rich, I just thought a lot of times, like, I really want people to be able to experience this if they want to, and bring that to people that might not be able to make it to these places. And so that's where I came up with the concept. So it was local guides that could kind of give you that rundown of, in real time tours of different places, getting to ask a local guide questions about things that you see. And some of it was through slides and storytelling, and other things were actually, walking down the streets of Venice or Lima. I think one of the tours, like, the attendees, the travelers, as we call them, they saw a car accident right in front of them. And so it was like real life, and people really felt like they were, getting a little bit of an immersive experience with the tours that they were able to do.
Yeah, well, thanks for giving me all those examples. That definitely helped me build a bigger picture of the challenge that you were confronting. And as we look forward, are there any new activities that you're particularly excited about, or things that are coming in the short term or farther term that you'd like to tell us about?
We're going to be looking at traveling in a couple months. It's a little bit further out to CES, where there's a lot of accessibility work, and potentially the finance and investment conferences that are happening in the Middle East this fall. And the reason why we're particularly excited about those is because when we talk about disability tech and accessible tech, we a lot of times we talk to the same people that are in our circles in the disability space. And what Rich and I are really trying to do is expand that message. So we want to be in rooms where people would not expect us to be in, where people wouldn't think that disability or accessible tech or neurodivergent tech like has a place or applies, to really expand people's understanding of this space. And one thing that we have found that really does that is talking about the curb cut effect. And most people have never heard of it. And so they typically have their mind blown when we ask them, have you used an electric toothbrush? Have you used speech to text? Have you listened to an audiobook recently? Have you rolled your suitcase up a curb cut on the sidewalk? And the answer to those questions are almost inevitably yes for every single person we speak to. And when they find out that a lot of these things, all of those things really, were created for people with disabilities first, but because they had the most difficult use case, they actually were expanded to being able, to be beneficial to the wider public. And I think the more people realize that and understand that, the better they will understand the space and be open to its expansion and supporting it. And so we know that lots of people have gone and said, "Oh, I have to talk about this to the next person I see," or family members and things like that. And so yeah, we're really excited to be spreading that message in the next couple of months, and seeing all the new technology and companies that are going to be at the CES conference in January.
Well, thanks so much for you sharing your story and talking about what your organization is looking to do in the future. I definitely learned some things from that. So best of luck with everything that you're doing, and thanks again for taking part in this.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate you having me on.
All right, thanks a lot. Bye bye.